Okay, fair. Operate the forward area refueling equipment. Given the requirement to provide the aviation refueling support on the fixed airstrip of the pre-designated file location, personnel materials required to perform the task: 3 military occupational military ops specialists, qualified 92F soldiers on the MOS 93H Pathfinder personnel have the required air traffic control skills, customers, aircraft of the crew's proper specifications, product appropriate communication systems. The forward area refueling equipment systems, fire extinguisher, spill kit containers, evaluation, fuel containment test, the kit, Millport Aqua Glow test kit. To each of the to each 5-gallon water cans, appropriate personal protection equipment. Risk management procedure applicable to material safety data sheet. Facility response of the FRP. Spill control countermeasures plan. The unit hazardous and hazardous material management policies, oil discharge and contingency plan if they are required, oil written operations orders, units standing operation procedures, aviation refueling operations. DA Form 364-3 daily issues petroleum products. DA Form 5830 POL credit card AV fuel independent control label. The DOD Form 1970 motor equipment utilization. DA Form 598 5987 motor equipment dispatch. DA Form 2404 equipment inspection maintenance worksheet, and DA Form 5988 equipment inspection worksheet, and full access to all reference materials. Layout assembly of operate the performance of operators, preventive maintenance check services and services of the PMSC. Disassemble the forward area refueling equipment. To equipment to ensure the personal surrounding steps are fair. Failure to perform the task correctly and result in the damage of the equipment, injury to the death of personnel. Lay out the system so the helicopter can land, refueling the head of the wind of the crosswind. Avoid the layout of the system. The helicopter shaking and the total winds. Choose the highest ground possible, given the side of the vapors will not collect. Use the natural camouflage as possible to avoid contamination. Avoiding laying out systems near a body of the water. Laying out assemble of the fare system, the forward area refueling system, refueling equipment. Understand the exact risk management, risk control command guidance under the directed higher headquarters. Assemble the various hazardous continuously report risk and reduction measures appropriate to the chain of the command. Employ environmental stewardship protection program measures according to Task 10192 F1413. Re-understand that the unit of the installation of the SOP and OPORD requirements of requisition, storing, handling, and disposition of the hazardous material. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment as required. Gloves, hearing, and caution. Gloves, hearing, and protection, and goggles need to be worn performing any fuel operation. Dispatch the forward area refueling equipment with using the DAOD Form 1970 DA Form 5987E. Perform the before, during, after operations of performance maintenance check services systems components according to TM 4930229112 12 and P. And note the DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E. Any faults found where the performing performance maintenance check services. Perform the forward area refueling equipment on the vehicle or aircraft. Inspect the forward area refueling equipment for damages according to during the transportation. Ensure the system is complete. Perform the forward area refueling equipment setup procedures. Position the pump filter separator. Place the pump assembly on the clear level spot. Face the inlet of the port toward the collapsible drum area. Connect the female end of the 5-foot suction hose to the pump outlet. Connect another length of the suction hose to the first hose. Close the male and second hose to the inlet port of the filter separator. Ground and bond the pump in the filter separator. Drive one ground of the grounds between the pump and the filter separator. Drive the rod at the level of the permanent measure in the ground. Under any conditions, keep the ground moist and underground the grounding rod. If the soil is not conductive, keep the ground of the moist of 50-50 water salt mixture. Epsom salt, copper sulfate, calcium chloride, potassium nitrate may also be used. After the pump of the ground cable is filter separator ground cable to the ground rod. Lay out the suction hoses. Lay out 5 length of the hose of the connection pump to the T fitting. Lay the 5-foot lengths of the connecting to the T fitting to the drums. Lay out the butterfly valves of the the butterfly valves of the T fitting to the drum hose line. Lay out the discharge dispense to the hose of the nozzle. Layout of the discharge hose is provided by a 100-foot separation rotor to rotor between the refueling helicopters. Drive the ground rod into the ground approximately 10 feet from the end of each discharge hose. Set the performance measure from the 9B from the grounding procedures. Assemble the connection hose with the appropriate components of the system as directed by the supervisor. Keep all the dust caps in place and actual coupling of the piece of the equipment. Add the CCR nozzle at the end of each discharge. Carry the nozzle to the back of the ground back to the ground rods. Hang the ground rods and attach the ground with the cable and nozzle to the ground rod. Allow the hanging open of the refueling nozzle on the ground of the rod. Loop the hose in an S shape so that it will not get tangled in itself. Assemble the remainder of the discharge hose. Assemble the suction hose, T-valve, butterfly valve between the pump inlet of the storage drums. Use the male-to-male adapter to connect the 500-gallon drums to the system. Larger tanks insert a butterfly valve using a 2 to 4 inch coupling adapter. Recheck all the fittings coupling to make sure that they are locked tight. Recheck the ground of the pumps and the filter separated fuel nozzle. Reposition the fire extinguisher. Place one fire extinguisher at the pump and one each of the combination of the ground rod nozzle hanger. Place one of the 5-gallon cans to each of the ground rod nozzles hangers. Camouflage system, using natural features available for the camouflage FARE or forward area refueling equipment. If spray paint is available, use the earth and grass tones to dull the concealing couplings and the fillings. Open the forward area refueling system. Open all systems valves, prime pump in the fuel source and higher than the pump. Use the gravity to prime. Close the water drain valve and the filter separator. Open the air vent. When the filter is observed, the side of the glass, the filter separator pump is primed. Close the filter separator air vent. If the pump is higher than the few sources, use a manual prime method. Open the 2 gallons of the fuel in cleaning metal can. Take primary pump plug off the top of the pump and fill the pump case with fuel. Replace the priming plug. Open the filter separator air vent and make sure the water drain valve is closed. Start the pump in achieving this fuel system prime. Depending on how far the fuel must be lifted, operate the pump to appropriate engine speed to achieve the full prime. And the fuel must be lifted less than 2 feet. The fuel must be lifted less than 2 feet. Operated pump at the idle. If the fuel is lifted 2 to 5 feet, operate the pump at medium speed. If the fuel is lifted 5 feet to more, operate the pump at full throttle. When the pump reaches the full prime, indicate the slowdown of the pump speed. Reduce the pump speed to prevent the damage to the filter separator. Check to see the pump reaches the full prime within 4 minutes. Fill the fuel prime. If the fuel prime is not reached in 5 minutes, shut down the system. Check for the following problems which prevent system from priming. Close area of the valves. Checking the fuel source of the pump. Air leaking in the system. Add a coupling of the primary plug sufficient in the fuels and in the pump. Damage to the pump. Suction and lift of the grate when system reaches the fuel prime lug and leaks and twisting of the ballooning of the hose. Observe the hoses. Observe filter separator pressure differential indicator to ensure the filter separator is appropriate properly. As operating appropriately. If there is probably occur, immediately shut down the system and correct them. As soon as the system is as soon as the system is full of fuel, just draw the sample from each of the refueling nozzles for a simple sampling aqua glow test according to TM 1067-1 Appendix E. If the dirt or the other container of the visible is sampling, flush the discharge line in a suitable wasteful fuel container and resample. If contaminated is still present, notify the supervisor and do not use the system for refueling. Fuels used in forward area refueling point must be sampled and testified and classified. The fuel area refueling equipment system has 2 ports of 500-gallon collapsible drums. If it has been not tested, moved then within the. If it is not been tested or moved within the last 24 hours, fuel must be recirculated and tested. If not, if not moved, go to the fuel refuel procedures. Recirculate the fuel area. Fuel area. Shit, I forgot. I swallowed one. The forward area fueling. Sorry, I got. Alright, I lost my place. I'm going to pause. Okay, back again. Fuel used to forward area refueling point must be sampled, tested, and classified. If the fare system has 2 ports of 500-gallon collapsible drums, if the fuel has not been tested and moved in the last 24 hours, fuel must be recirculated and tested. If not moved, go to the refuel circulated. Refuels procedures. Recirculate the forward area refueling point using double port bags only. Move discharge hose back to the other end of the fuel drum by being recirculated. Connect the elbow valve to the other end of the fuel drum. Connect the discharge hose to the elbow of the drum, the elbow of the valve. Start the pump, open the elbow valve to the fuel drums, and recirculate the fuel drum for 3 to 5 minutes before taking samples. Repeat the steps for the fuel drum from the opposite discharge. Perform a mill pour aqua glow test as required in TM 56630-1810. F. The refuel aircraft performance steps. When appropriate, personal protective equipment, ensure the sleeves and completely rolled down uniform in position. Completely rolled down uniform is buttoned upon all the way to the collar. Guide the aircraft position using proper handling and arm signals according to the Federal Field Manual 304-1111 and Field Manual 1067-1. Make sure all the requirements armaments are to safe. Deplane the passengers. Take them to the passenger marshalling area. When the pilot will remain on board, crew members may assist the refueling manning fire extinguisher. Carrying a fire extinguisher on the grounding rod of the side of the aircraft, fill the port. Make sure all the radios except for one side of the pilot monitoring aircraft are turned off. Inform the pilot that he or she must not transmit while actual refueling is taking place. If the required lock on the port of the adapter of the CCR nozzle is on the reporting refueling, ground and bond the nozzle to the aircraft. Insert the nozzle bond into a bond plug receiver on the aircraft. Attach the connector to the clip of the bare metal part of the aircraft, usually the skid. Never attach the clip of attach the clip to a radio antenna or propeller or rotor. When using the CCR grounded the grounding rod, remove the dust of the cap of the nozzle. Remove the plug from the aircraft fill port. Do not push the dust cap on the ground. Shut down the forward area refueling equipment. Replace the plug aircraft filter port. Replace the cap on the nozzle. The bonding of the plug. Release the connector clip. Carry the nozzle back to the hangar. Do not lay it on the ground or drag it across the ground. Move the fire extinguisher. Take the fire extinguisher back to the position of the ground rod. Board and crew and the passenger have a pilot chief sign on the fuel DA form 364-3 and DA form 5830. are direct the aircraft to the liftoff, shut off the pump with no other aircraft in sight, expected to air arrive shortly. If you are preparing to disassemble the system, disassemble the drain so the stow of the forward area refueling equipment. Closes elbow coupling to the fuel drum. Place a suitable container under the connection of the outlet of the filter separator. Disconnect the coupling. Put the end of the discharge hose into the container. Open the filter separator. Enter air vent and drain the filter separator into a container. Plug and cap the filter separator inlet and outlet. Close the air vent. The drain valves. Lift the nozzle into the hose. Disconnect and plug nozzle inlet inside aside. With another soldier holds open the end of the hose. Walk in the hose in the back to the Y fitting. When the Y fitting is reached, hold the Y fitting and disconnect the drain of the hose and cap Y outlet. Go back to the same section of the hose line. Disconnect the coupling between 50 feet of the length and caper out at the end of the hose. Use the cap at the end of the reel of the hose. Repeat the procedure. Measure the D of the 50-foot hose. Dirt remaining of the fuel and FY fitting of the foot length of the suction hose is in container. Disconnect the plug Y cap of the plug length of the suction hose. Move the container of the drain fuel over to the pump. Drain the pump of the casing remaining in the lengths of the suction hose into the container. Cap the plug of the pump and inlet the outlet. Close the container in the drain fuel. The fuel may not be used into the aircraft until it has been sample tested and found to be specifications. The disposal is required to ensure the standard operating procedures and environmental regulations are followed. Disassemble the storage camouflage equipment. Storage so each of the component in the space provided in the frame of the canvas container. Place the fire extinguisher placed in the components of the system. Remove the ground rod. Stow them in the suction hose container. Remove the 5-gallon water can and stow them in the equipment. Complete the DA Form 3643, DA Form 5830, and if required, the Department of Defense Form 1970 and DA Form 98 and 5987E and DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E. Turn in the supervisor. See the task standards. Apply the risk management procedures. Employed Environmental Stewardship Protection Program is according to the Task 10192F1413. Read and understand the installation requirements for the requisition, storing, handling, and disposing of the hazardous material. Where appropriate, protective personnel equipment as required. Dispatch the forward area refueling equipment using the Department of Defense 1970 DA Form 5987E. Perform before, during, after operation of the preventive maintenance check services on the systems component according to TN 104930229212 and P, and noted the DA Form 2404, DA Form 5988E. Any faults with performing the preventive maintenance check services. Remove the forward area refueling equipment components from the vehicle of the aircraft. Inspect the forward area refueling equipment for damages that may be occurred with during the transport, ensuring the system is complete. Perform the forward area refueling equipment as such set up procedures. Operate the forward area refueling equipment system. Disassemble, drain, and stow the forward area refueling equipment system. Disassemble stored camouflage equipment. Complete the DA Form 3643, DA Form 5830 if required to the Department of Defense 1970, DA Form 5987E, and DA Form 2404 and DA Form 5988E. Turned in the supervisor. Guidance: if the score is still to go and the performance measure is passed, and then if the score of the soldier is a no-go, the performance measure is failed. If the score is a no-go, it shows that done it was wrong and how to correct it. Here's a reference page. Moving on to 139. Perform petroleum assault hose line.